via our Bloomberg Radio Plus app, free for iPhone and Android devices.
Matt Maley is well qualified to weigh in on this subject. He's equity strategist at Miller Tabak and joins us on the line now from Boston. Good morning. Happy New Year, and glad you're with us, Matt. You must have taken stock, excuse the expression, of the positives and the negatives possible in the new year. Give us your outlook, pro and con, for equities.
Well, right now we have to see what really happens with the whole situation with tapering. A lot of people say, well, geez, look the way the market reacted at the end of December. That's very positive. The only problem is that tapering actually hasn't begun yet. The liquidity spigots have been wide open through December, and with the markets running straight up into the end of the year, people weren't going to sit on that no matter what their expectations were. They're going to put that money to use, just like mutual fund managers were putting the money to use no matter what their expectations were. They had to keep in the market as it was rallying. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens in the next couple of weeks when tapering actually does begin. On the positive side, obviously, we're getting a lot of economic data coming out. That's very positive. You know, and let's face it, the pullback on Thursday, if it had been any other day of the year, people would have said it was a normal correction within after a big long run. So I wouldn't put too much on what happened on Wednesday. The one thing I would say, however, is that we are getting two extremes of bullishness. We see the II, institutional investor bullish data, is now above 60%. That's usually what we see. We haven't seen it above 60% since October of 2007, right before the market, obviously began to come in. We also have margin debt at all-time highs, and we're now at a 33% premium to the 200-day moving, 200-week moving average on the S&P. These are all extremes that are usually followed shortly by corrections. So we're kind of at a critical juncture here right now, and my kind of advice...
Okay, let's pause it right there. Hello and welcome in from Sunnyvale, California. I'm Mark Vierra. This is my weekly technical analysis video where I just go through some basic trend lines, some chart patterns, maybe a few moving averages, mostly volume. Take a little look at some treasuries, yield, US dollar, and take a look at, I'm not making any recommendations to buy or sell anything. I happen to be into a euro short right now, and I'll just kind of go over just how I've been managing that as a trade. That's about it, and then we'll call it a video. Starting off here, like to look at a long-term chart to begin with here, and consequently this is probably about the most bearish chart on the books right now, sporting a hanging man. You can see here where we've popped above this resistance level, and we're just still pretty much just testing that resistance. I wouldn't look too much into this because the shorter term charts could change the current monthly candle very easily. So let's move on to the weekly chart, and here's where I'm drawing my trend lines. On this high, I've got this as a pivot. Been looking at this for several weeks. I think this is an important marker, and just to zoom in a bit on that, as expected from last week, that this has provided a really good support in here for price. And I'll also get into the weekly. I'm seeing a chart pattern. I got the flag on the daily, but I like the weekly chart. Let me get into that. Oh, real quick before I get into the weekly flag pattern, this is also a good fib extension where, and I've always pointed out that the 50% is a key area, not only with a fib extension but also on a retracement, where this 50% just happens to be where a lot of activity usually ends up taking place. And finding nice support here at the 38%. Of course, now 50% I would explain would be half of this leg added to this point here, and that's where you get these these percentages. It's an extension. Okay, so that's added to this level here. In any case, not surprising to find support here at this fib level. So let's close that, and I just want to just quickly take a look. I put measurements. I have my choice between the daily flag, which is a down sloping, but I like the high and tight. I'll tell you why, is because it has a pretty good track record. And so this is the measurements that I'm getting here, and here we go. Any case, that's the chart pattern of the week. Weekly high and tight flag. The difference between the high and tight is see how this is just straight across here, as opposed to the typical bullish flag. You'd see it down sloping, and then it would complete. The equidistance would be from here, and you could travel down, and you add your measurement to the top of that. In any case, moving on. Where do we go from here? Let's look at some daily trend lines. So first daily chart, I like to just show something kind of a zoomed out. This is just a regular channel, nothing fancy in here. Zooming in a bit now, we want to look at this now as a rising wedge. Okay, so you got a channel and it's tightening up. I suspect that price will bounce off of this trend line if it comes into contact. I'm actually expecting to see how we have these higher lows. Well, this one's a little lower, but overall we're seeing higher lows. Of course, now this is a lower high here. For the week, it is trending higher. So yeah, it's kind of a mixed look, if you will. But let's move on. Plot thickens. All right. Take a quick look at some moving averages. Prices above the 5 and 9 day. This is a bullish representation of what price is doing. Nothing really big in there. Let's see. Yeah, fibs. Let's take a look at daily chart patterns. And so here's the daily, bull flag that I'm looking at. Notice how this is a down sloping. Of course, I use the measurements for the weekly flag. I think we're going to get a better result from those measurements. A little V bottom action going on, and that's it with patterns. I want to move right into volume. So volume is probably the most important thing. Well, almost the most important thing. But this is what I'm concentrating on right now, is what I think will be our next point of control. So we're going to see, I believe we'll see the point of control and value moving up to coincide with this high volume node that has been a pivot. And this is what happens with pivots, is they build up volume until it's the next point of control, or where the majority of shares changing hands is considered fair value. And I think going from that, we're going to see value and point of control again. It'll be up close to the profile boundaries. Price, here's our boundary profile wise. Price crossed below this pivot and back above. Again, with the higher lows, I believe that we will be seeing higher prices coming in this week. And that's it with mostly with volume here. And I'm going to forego all the other intraday except for the monkey bars. And I want to just focus on, this is really good, what I'm calling structure. These playgrounds are overlapping, and as expected, like I pointed out last week, is price looks to be putting in a base level. So I think it's finding its base, and even though it's outside of the playground area, you would expect it to go back into the playground area. I think we're going to see playgrounds developing up here again. This TPO point of control and the new playground, I think, will be pushing up closer to the profile boundary, and that's what I'm seeing in volume. Now, here is the most bullish. Well, okay, before I get into that, let's just take a quick look at treasuries. Let me close this up here. Alright, here's U.S. Treasuries. This is sort of a head scratcher for me. I wasn't expecting. I had a head and shoulder pattern. I thought we'd be pushing lower on Treasuries. But we really just did a clean jump through these two key pivot areas between this trend line here and this trend line. Just launched above that, and now what that's doing, that brings me into the next chart. Now forget about all the other charts. This is about the most bullish chart that for stocks I can show you. And what higher treasuries is pushing this yield down, and that is going to be great for stocks. And I think this is probably the most singular bullish chart that you can present right here. Is this is the 30-year U.S. Treasury yield. Okay. So going now into the U.S. dollar, and not so much unexpected is from last week I wrote that after the breakout of the symmetrical triangle, this is going to be a good first support for the dollar, and we're still seeing this is pretty bearish looking chart for the dollar too. So I wouldn't be surprised if the dollar even struck down to this trend line. I think we're going to see a good strong bounce off of that, and that's setting up now for my next chart, which I would love to see is so I've almost already cleared my euro short position. I still have one lot left on the table, but I think I'd love to see some more strength in the euro, even though I have one short lot about right here and managed to trade pretty well. I've got some good profit and just left one on the table, and I would expect that last US dollar chart, if we saw some further weakness, would drive the euro up to this area. This is where I would start, not that I'm recommending any trades, but just I think that would be a good opportunity in any case. That's just last chart just to show this is a trade that I managed to get out of all. Let's see, I had 4 and 5 lots at a time, cycled out of the least profitable one. Went all through that. In any case, here's the last lot still up there. It's just what that's doing is that's gonna landmark a good spot for me. And just going back to the previous one, somewhere up in this level is where I would hope to see the euro going. We'll see if it gets there. In any case, I think that's all I've got. Of course, at the end of the videos, I always like to point out that my primary Vario here is HotStockMarket.com. Oh, look at that new marijuana stocks. And here on the front page you can find my trading log. Also want to point out a good spot to find some information, some good discussion here would be subreddit StockMarket. And that's my video for the week, and I hope to see y'all on the boards.